listening to a 2-hour lecture by Dr. Karinga, by Dr. John Henry Clark, that doesn't give you what you need to know. That just simply says, here's the doorway, check it out. It's bad inside. That's the idea. The idea is to tell you how to go to get more. So if you're not a part of a study group, you ought to be terrorizing Black Bazaar Bookstore. You need to be terrorizing. You should not be able to go to sleep at night unless you've read at least 2 chapters out of somebody's book. You ought to be committed to doing that. You ought to be committed to doing that. Look, when you listen to Runoko Rashidi, you don't want to just say, that brother is deep. How did he get all that? Go find out what he read. He ain't no doggone soothsayer. He studied, did research, read and studied and researched and stayed up late at night, took what they told him and went and got some more. Went to the library, went to the countries, went looking under the rocks and under leaves and behind buildings and learning how to do it himself. That's what you got to do. That's how you know how great you are. Because you see, not in the ability to say, black people built the pyramid. Don't you know that Queen Hatshepsut was a black woman? Ramesses was black too, you know, he was a black man. He had lots of melanin. The white folks ain't got no melanin. I got some melanin. Shut up, fool, what you talking about? You understand? Look, melanin will do nothing but make you drunk. And you act like a bigger fool if you don't know what the melanin is about. You know, like one of the things that we are finding, of course, is that one of the reasons that African Americans have such a very, very high degree of disorders related to things, related to stress and tension of that nature, like hypertension, is because our highly sensitive biology with the melanin, which has us then taking in and assimilating stress without the consciousness of knowing how to deal with it, makes us prone to more disorders, worse disorders. When we get drunker than anybody. So that's why we got so many alcoholics. When we get high, we go beyond high. That's why they can't get us back. You understand? So that's what melanin does. Now, if you know what you got and how to use it, it's a blessing. If you don't know what you got and you go around talking about I got it and don't know what to do with it, then you become a self-destructive maniac. So, see, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. A little bit. So until you know what you're talking about, shut up. Please. Please don't call the Robert Ashley show or the John Wiley Price show and you start running down what you heard somebody say and you don't know what you're talking about. Not only are you an embarrassment to yourself, you are a disgrace to the race. I mean, don't you know, this is the reason they argue against the whole Afrocentric argument so strongly. You know, Cleopatra was not no black lady. The Cleopatras didn't come into existence until the invaders came. Some of the Cleopatras were mulattoes. Others of them were pure, unadulterated European invaders. That's just the idea. And like even the ones who were mulattoes look more white than black. Nefertari is another question. Hatshepsut is another question. Queen Ty is another question. But you got to make the separation. Because you get out there talking about this Cleopatra, she was a black lady. No, she wasn't. She was living in a black country, operating in a black regime, worshiping black gods, but she was not in herself black. So if you don't go and read the information and get the data, then you can come out saying something that makes you sound like the bigger fool than you were. You know, I mean, like, you know, one of the things that we need to be very concerned about, for an example, and like, you know, if some of you remember, years ago, before it became popular, I always came with my kente shawl on. You remember that? I always had people say, what you got that on for? I said, well, like, you know, this represents just an indication that even though I got on these European suits, this is a mark of the fact that this is an African reality here, and I'm just sort of wearing this as a symbol for what that's really all about. Okay, fine. Now, that was real kente from Ghana. And it was, in fact, indicative and symbolic of our need to begin to always understand our connection symbolically and actually with Africa. Okay? Now, you know what has happened? The Koreans have gotten rich on making imitations of our kente cloth. All right? Now, you won't buy from the sisters and brothers who are importing it because you're too cheap. All right? Now you'll buy a real Louis Vuitton, a real Gucci, but you'll buy a Korean-made kente cloth. All right? Now, I don't want to put you down. Please don't get mad with me. Please. Listen. Listen. Look, trust me. Look, please. Look, please. Listen. 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 Look. Please hear me right now. I'm glad to see you in kente. I'm so glad you took off that Gucci. Glad you took off that Liz Claiborne, especially her. Glad you took off this stuff. Glad you've changed and trying to symbolically find yourself. But you see, you got to go all the way with it now. Don't stop halfway. Don't stop in Korea. Go all the way back to Africa. Okay. Listen. We were bad. We've been here so long they can't even count when we got started. We have built so many cultures that have grown and fallen that they can't even determine. When other people were still trying to come into culture, we'd already had several civilizations that had gone all the way up and come all the way down. I mean, we have concepts of realities that have been forgotten, that the world has not even discovered. People talk about and speculate. Nobody knows. I was back in Kemet this summer for the 4th time. When you look at those pyramids, at any time of day or night, you know this is not an ordinary phenomenon. This is something that transcends even our best guess of speculation. You can bring all the scientists and all the spookologists you can find. They don't know. The Japanese came with their computers and tried to reconstruct the pyramid. They gave up, said, no, I can't do it. Couldn't do it. The computers broke down. They couldn't even replicate the kind of formula that was there. This is something that was phenomenal. We have obviously forgotten more than we knew. We were tough. We were mighty people. If you talk about math, you're talking about black. You talk about chemistry, you're talking about black. You talk about geometry, you're talking about black. You talk about theology, you're talking about black. You talk about psychology, you're talking about black. You talk about botany, you're talking about black. Trigonometry, black. Calculus, black. Physics, black. Space, black. Astronomy, black. Calendars, black. Time, black. Space, black. You name it, it's black. It's ours, no question about that. It's ours. So look, we do not have to take backstage to anything that's civilized. Now, when you start producing Jeffrey Dahmers, get out the room. Say, we are not engaged in cannibalism. We don't do that. We do not molest our children. We do not go around, as this brother just did, who's trying to be like white people down in Miami the other day, kill people and then rape them. Now, you can be crazy, but that is not black folks crazy. That is not permissible. We will not let you act that way. When you start acting that way, we're going to send you to the white folks, because that's where you got that from. There's only so much we can stand. So I'm saying, though, there are things you can't imitate. I mean, like, there are freak manifestations that you are not permitted to have. They just are not permitted. And if you start doing them, you no longer belong to us. We will disown you and send you back to your teachers and leave you there for now on, okay? So we must understand that our greatness goes without question. We can do economically, scientifically, intellectually, whatever we want to do. I know it because we have done it. We've made the desert fertile. We've made the coal hot. We've made the jungle into cities. We've made raw materials into usable materials. We've been able to transform environments throughout this planet to sit and to fit with the needs of the survival of humanity. All the principles of science, the conceptions of what the weather was going to do and how it was going to do, has been done by African people. We don't have to be intimidated by can we survive. The fact that we've been out of the business of directing and leading thought for a few centuries does not mean that we are incapable of it. Once you reestablish an understanding of the greatness that we had, then you understand how great we still are. That's the important thing, number one. That's one reason I know the victory is certain. Number two, if you took any appraisal from any scientific perspective, sociology, psychology,